rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. As I mentioned earlier, we are on the final discussion on Amantu billah wa malaika wa kutubi wa rusuli, on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's divinely revealed books and His divinely appointed messengers, His rusul. That includes Ambiya alayhi salatu wa salam. And we will conclude the discussion on Ambiya alayhi salatu wa salam today, inshallah ta'ala. And we're going to refer to Surah Al-An'am, verses 83 onwards. So just to recap again, we just go through those verses again one by one. Bismillah.
From verse
83.
And this is our argument that we gave to Ibrahim against his people. We raise in degrees whom we please. Undoubtedly your Lord is wise, knowing. And we bestowed upon him Ishaq and Yaqub. We showed the path to all of them.
Okay. We bestowed upon him Ishaq and Yaqub. Next line.
We showed the path to all of them. And
Kullan hadayna. Right. All of them were paragons of guidance.
And showed the path to Nuh before them.
وَنُوحًا هَدَيْنَا مِنْ قَبْلُ وَمِنْ ذُرِّيَّتِهِ. And from his progeny, Dawood, وَسُلَيْمَانَ, وَأَيُّوبَ, وَيُوسُف, وَمُوسَى, وَهَارُونَ. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is presenting a pattern. Can anyone identify the pattern? Start from the top again. وَوَهَبْنَا, we blessed him with Ishaq and Yaqub. Right? Allah is speaking about Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam. How many children Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam have? Ismail and Ishaq. So Allah says, and we blessed him with Ishaq. What happened to Ismail alayhi salam? What happened to Ismail alayhi salam? Why is Ismail alayhi salam not specifically mentioned in this verse here? No, Ismail alayhi salam came first. There's two reasons for it. One was that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it was one of the mu'jizat and one of the mercies of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that at a very late stage in the life of Ibrahim alayhi salatu salam, Allah blessed Ibrahim alayhi salam and Bibi Hajra with a child. Bibi Sarah with a child, and that child was Ishaq alayhi salatu wasalam. And it's a long narration about how the malaika came and descended and he welcomed them to their homes and he offered them food. And when they declined from taking the food, then he realized, oh, these are not just normal people, these are malaika. And then they informed him, وَبَشَّرْنَاهُ بِإِسْحَاقَ نَبِيًّا مِنَ الصَّالِحِينَ. Right? And we gave them the glad tidings of Ishaq alayhi salatu wasalam, who will be a prophet from amongst the people of piety. Right? And when his وَمْرَأَتُ قَائِمَةً, and his wife was standing behind the curtain or whatever it is, قَائِمَةً فَضَحِكَتْ, she laughed. And in another verse of the Holy Quran says, فَسَكَّتْ وَجَهَهَا, she placed her hand, وَقَالَتْ عَجُوزٌ عَقِيمٌ, I'm gone old, I can't have children. Right? So because it was one of the great favors of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and it was a miracle as well, that people beyond their ages of child rearing or childbirth for that matter were able to have children. And today we see this modern phenomenon of intro, vitro, whatever it's called, IVF. It's easier to say, right? IVF and whatever it is, right? But in terms of age as well, right? It's an interesting phenomenon that people who are way beyond their 90s, they're in the geriatric ages, right? And they can have a child. Right? This was one of the marvels of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's miracles, which is a sign for people who are in the medical field, that these things, with the will of Allah and the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there are possibilities of discovery in those matters there, and in fields of endeavor that people can work towards in terms of life and extension of life and children being born at later stages and ages and whatever it is. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that was one. The second thing is that if you look at who comes after Ishaq wa Yaqub. Who is Yaqub? What's another name for Yaqub? And that's it. Israel. Ishaq, Yaqub. Kullan hadayna. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put one, وَنُوحًا هَدَيْنَا مِنْ قَبْلُ. Right? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guided him, and he was a person of guidance, Nuh alayhi salam, before them. Why did Allah mention Nuh there? Well, there's a reason for that. When you say anti-Semitic, what does it mean? You are against a specific group of people, a specific nation. And these are known as the Semitic people. Arabs are also Semites. Why? Because it refers to the progeny of Nuh alayhi salatu wasalam. So if you are from the progeny of Nuh alayhi salatu wasalam, then you are from the Semitic people. Why are they called Semites? Because Nuh alayhi salatu wasalam's one son was called Sam bin Nuh. Sam bin Nuh. And his progeny are known as Semites. Do you understand? Anti-Semitic means that you are against those people who call themselves or regard themselves as being part of from the progeny of Sam bin Nuh alayhi salatu wasalam. Because Nuh alayhi salatu wasalam is regarded as Adam Thani, the second Adam, because after the flood and so on there, it was through the progeny of Nuh alayhi salatu wasalam that population proliferated and whatever it is. Therefore, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving you a link here between Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam, who's the patriarch of the three Abrahamic faiths. He's the patriarch of Judaism, Christianity and Islam, because they all share a common lineage. They all share a common genetic profile and a genealogy. And it all comes down to Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam. But the one before Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam, when they have a common link, is through Sam bin Nuh alayhi salatu wasalam, especially the Arabs and the Israelites. Because they all come from Sam bin Nuh alayhi salatu wasalam. So, the Arabs should actually stand up and say, well, if you say anything against the Arabs as well, then you'll be anti-Semitic. Because you are being anti-Semitic. Right? And it's interesting that the Jews call Arabs all the vilest of names. Do you know a reason why? Well, what's the difference between the Semites who are Jews and the Semites who are Arabs? One is Bani Israel through Ishaq, and one is Bani Ismail. It's still family politics, not between Ambiya, but between the progeny. That's all. Right? One father, different mothers. But they're all Semitic. And it's still an issue which is fought over in the Middle East in terms of superiority. We the Israelites. Right? Oh, you the Ismailites. No. You people are of no consequence, right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is specifically in these verses here speaking about Bani Israel. Because Quran says, وَهَبْنَا لَهُ إِسْحَاقَ وَيَعْقُوبَ كُلًّا هَدَيْنَا يَعْقُوب كُلًّا هَدَيْنَا وَنُوحًا هَدَيْنَا مِنْ قَبْلُ وَمِنْ ذُرِّيَّتِهِ وَمِنْ ذُرِّيَّتِهِ here refers both, I'm not going to give the lamba shura tafsir, but it refers both to Nuh alayhi salam because he's the second Adam, and Ibrahim alayhi salam in particular. وَمِنْ ذُرِّيَّتِهِ دَاوُود وَسُلَيْمَانَ وَأَيُّوب وَيُوسُف وَمُوسَى وَهَارُونَ. Now, after Yaqub alayhi salatu wasalam, who should have been the obvious person who should have been mentioned? Yusuf. But he's not. When is he mentioned? Way down. So how did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala start to read it again loudly? Now, do you understand the connection why Nuh alayhi salam is in the center there, right? Because he's the second Adam, and these progenies originate from him anyway. Right? Therefore, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَنُوحًا هَدَيْنَا مِنْ قَبْلُ وَمِنْ ذُرِّيَّتِهِ, and from his progeny, Dawood was Sulaiman. Why did Allah speak about them first? Any ideas? Anyone wants to venture an idea here? A guess? At best, Dawood was Sulaiman. In terms of Ambiya, and in terms of being beside with prophethood, what was peculiar or particular to Dawood and Sulaiman? They were both granted massive kingdoms. So they were Ambiya, they were prophets of Allah, as well as being part of government, meaning they were kings, they were sultans, right? They were in positions of political power, right? And they were possessors of kingdoms, right? They were monarchs, and they were prophets of Allah, Ambiya alayhimu salatu wassalam. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bestowed them with great wealth, right? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bestowed Musa and Sulaiman alayhi salatu wassalam, right? He made the dua, he said, Ya Allah, grant me a mulk, grant me a kingdom, that no one else will have a kingdom comparable to mine. And what did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala do? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala placed the human beings, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala placed the jinn species, and He placed the entire animal kingdom under the monarchy of Sulaiman alayhi salatu wassalam. Right? You know that the lion is the king of the jungle. Right? In the animal kingdom as well, you have societies. And Quran speaks about إِلَّا أُمَمٌ أَمْثَالُكُمْ. They are nations like you, they are societies like you, they have hierarchies and whatever it is, they have a system. Right? But in the era of Sulaiman alayhi salatu wasalam, officially, although they may have had their hierarchies and this and that and whatever it is, everyone was answerable and accountable to Sulaiman alayhi salatu wasalam as his royal subjects. That's why he said, I haven't seen the hoopoe bird. Am kana min al-ghaibin. Where is this? He said, I will punish him for not being in my court. Right? But you know the story, but I'm trying to put across to you what a great وَآتَيْنَاهُ مُلْكًا عَظِيمًا. Allah granted him a massive sultanate. Right? And there was no one, to my knowledge, who was more wealthy, right, than Sulaiman alayhi salatu wasalam. He was responsible for what you know today as, the Temple Mount, what the Jews call the Temple Mount, Al-Aqsa, right, was built by. Now, what they want to rebuild, actually, just for your information, is Haykal Sulaimani, right? That's the core of what the Jews call the Temple Mount, Haykal Sulaimani, right? And this is where the Quran spoke about the fact that Sulaiman alayhi salatu salam, his throne was there. You know the whole story, right? But that's what they want to rebuild, the Temple of Solomon. What was the Temple of Solomon? Masjid, a place of worship. That's what it was. It was a place of worship. And Dawood alayhi salatu wasalam before him, because Dawood alayhi salatu wasalam was the father of Nuh alayhi salatu wasalam. But one interesting factor about both father and son was that both of them were excellent judges. Both of them were excellent because they were kings, right? They had to rule over their subjects, right? And at times, the Quran speaks about the brilliance and the wisdom of Sulaiman alayhi salam in spite of his tender age. فَفَهَّمْنَاهَا Sulaiman. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, and Sulaiman understood, and his piercing vision and his insight and his analysis was excellent. So they were given mulk, they were given properties, they were given wealth beyond compare. And no one else will be given this. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala started with them. Because one specific peculiarity of their nubuwwah was the fact that they were also monarchs and they were kings. Sulaiman and Dawood alayhi salam was his father. Just for your information, Dawood alayhi salam is buried in the precincts of Al-Aqsa. A little, just say this is the precincts, right? Just outside. If you go down there, it used to be in the control of the Muslims. Now if you go to Dawood alayhi salam's tomb and his mazar, you'll see there's a big, the last time I went, it was a reddish, like a cover over it, like a ghilaf, right? Over it there with the Jewish star, right? And they moved before they had a Qibla sign there. Now they they moved away the Qibla sign there, so you can't come there and pray. So I told them, okay, fine, you can't face Qibla and pray. I said, no problem. Oh, we don't face Qibla. When you're making dua, you make dua there, no problem, right? But people, it's odd. Some of our people who were part of our group in 2002, they felt a bit hesitant to go. I said, hey, Baba, regardless of who's controlling it, they still Dawood alayhi salam's grave, his tomb, is a Nabiullah, a prophet of Allah. So what if they put it's not going to affect him in any way. Similarly, Musa alayhi salam is also buried a little bit outside Jerusalem. Right? And the interesting part is, the Jews don't accept that as his place of burial. Yet the Prophet ﷺ marked it out and he described it on his journey to Al-Mi'raj. Right? And we had the good fortune of going, and I promise you, right? If anything, the atmosphere in around the precincts of the tomb of Musa alayhi salatu salam is electric, is a mild word. Electric is a mild word. And it's interesting, the Arabs come there during a certain part, I think in East or whatever, they have like a big gathering there and whatever it is, right? And Jews don't visit the tomb of Musa alayhi salam because they reject it. They reject it. Wallahu a'lam. Wallahu a'lam. Prophet said, I saw it close to Jerusalem, and he described it as like reddish hillocks, of sand and everything, and exactly as the Prophet of Allah described it. Khalas. Okay? I don't know why I said that, but anyway, that's beside the point. Okay? Ishaq wa Yaqub, kullan hadayna, wa Nuhan hadayna min qablu min dhurri Dawud wa Sulaiman, wa Ayyub wa Yusuf. Anything? Anybody? Why now mention Ayyub? Well, Allah is giving the third category. Those Ambiya alayhimu salatu wasalam who were placed under great trial and tribulations and underwent a great deal of calamities and afflictions. And who can compare in terms of calamities, trials, tribulations, than the trials and tribulations and the calamities that Ayyub alayhi salatu suffered in his own person. I mentioned a bit of it last week, and most of you know sabr of Ayyub alayhi salatu wassalam, and how much Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tested him. You know what, ask anybody who's ill. Right? The Prophet ﷺ said, نِعْمَتَانِ مَغْبُونٌ فِيهِمَا كَثِيرٌ مِنَ النَّاسِ. He said there are two of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's blessings, of which majority of human beings neglected. Two favors of Allah. What is that? The first one, as-sihha, your health, wal-faragh, and your free time. These are two blessings of Allah that we neglect and we misappropriate, meaning we don't use them effectively, meaning we don't take care of ourselves, we don't watch over our health, and we don't effectively use our free time. What's the solution? Anybody? When you have free time, go to the gym. You covered both. Okay? No, really, the Muslim Ummah has to rehash its entire outlook in terms of the way we manage our health. Rehash it completely in terms of the foods that we eat, in terms of the lifestyles we lead. We lead a generally sedentary lifestyle, right? The lifestyles we lead in terms of the quality of our foods. It's not even Quranic, it's not even prophetic. Right? Culture plays a role in the sense that, you know, we come from India, Pakistan, etc., or other parts of the world. Well and good, but in terms of the prophetic sunnah, right? In terms of our health, in terms of the type of food that we're supposed to be eating, right? When we should be eating, how we should be eating, the amount of food that we should be consuming. The Prophet ﷺ said, he said you should only be consuming that amount of food which is sufficient just to keep your back straight. That's all. If you can't do that, then 1/3 for food, then 1/3 for water, then 1/3 for air. We have the idea, no, 1/3, no. Enough just to keep your back straight. Enough energy, right? That's why you wonder how the Prophet ﷺ survived, right? I read one study some time ago, you can correct me on this if it's wrong, right? They said there's enough energy, right, in a single date, in terms of your sugars, in terms of your carbs and whatever it is there, and in terms of your carbohydrate intake for the day, for it to keep you, for one day, to keep you running in terms of your energy levels for the whole day. That was a scientific, that's not the hadith from the Prophet, but just one. You'll survive. Secondly, the Prophet ﷺ said that the home of all disease is the stomach. You can ask any doctor, ask them where's the biggest problem. Here. Why? Inadequate digestion. Right? The liver is overworked. The types of food that we eat, right, are not doing what they're supposed to be doing. In terms of the amount of vegetables we consume, in terms of the amount of fiber we consume, the leafy green vegetables, etc. that we consume, the fiber that we take in there, not working. Right? Our sugar levels have been spiked. The Prophet ﷺ's era, you'd have never had this problem. Right? Moreover, this is my favorite thing and everyone doesn't like it, that the Prophet ate more raw, uncooked food than cooked food. He barely ate rice. Who enjoys tea here? Anything about the Prophet drinking tea? No. Coffee? No.
There's always this theory they ask, what should we have first, the sweet or
both are sunnah, right? In terms of the Prophet ﷺ used to, take a pinch of salt, a little bit amount of salt, right, before his meal. Not this table seaboard salt that we have. Right? I got the genuine Himalayan salt and whatever it's called, right? It's a big health fad right now, but really, in terms of the quality of that salt, all the essential nutrients and whatever it is that you require, a small is more than enough. I take one of those crystals, don't buy the thing, Bisahwa. Buy one of the crystals, I put one crystal in a half a liter of water, right? And you allow it just to steep and whatever it is there. But in about 2-3 hours, if you taste the water, you can actually taste that saltiness in the water, but all the essential nutrients, I would presume, have been now transferred into the water, which help to also, maintain your alkalinity and your pH balance and whatever it is. Now, we've lost all of that. Again, where did I end up with this story now? I have no idea.
We talk about zero.
Oh yes, that's it. Now she remembered the gym story. Two favors of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we are totally neglectful of. One is our health, and the second is our faragh. And the Quran says, فَإِذَا فَرَغْتَ فَانْصَبْ وَإِلَىٰ رَبِّكَ فَارْغَبْ. The best way to utilize your free time is to sally to Allah. Sally to Allah. You know, your 3 minutes, make those important calls. Call unto Allah, right? And take care of your health. Ayyub alayhi salatu was tested with that calamity until it almost took his life. Okay? So that's why he's mentioned after this. So the first category was Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, those whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed with a great deal of wealth, with kingdoms and so on. The second category of nubuwwah was those Ambiya who were tested with calamity. Then why Yusuf alayhi salam then? Yeah, trial and tribulation, correct, but half an answer. See, this is genius of Quran. Half an answer. Come on, geniuses, think of one more.
One say he went through hardship and then he became a woman.
She give her a balance, man. That's the answer. He's a combination of both. Right? Yusuf alayhi salam had to undergo a great deal of calamities, difficulties, afflictions, and whatever it is. But then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made him the wazir of Egypt, right? And he was put into a position of great power. So he's a mixture of the two. Okay? Right, next one. Right. Anyone? Anybody? Or Yusuf or Musa or Harun. Musa and Harun obviously were sent brothers. They are brothers obviously. From the same mother, different fathers. Same mother, different fathers. Who's the elder one? Harun alayhi salam.